Welcome to RHI's Sociable City Interviews, where we meet with global thought leaders on nightlife and the social economy. Today we are with Gene Homza, bar manager and community liaison at the famed music venue 930 Club in Washington, D.C. Hey, Gene, it's great to see you again. I love the background that you have there. So how you doing?
I am doing really well. Just hibernating until we are allowed to come out of hibernation.
Well, that must be hard for you because I know that the where you work now, the 930 Club, is just one big ball of energy every time you have a show. I'm sure it gets you going. It must be hard to give up that. But how did you end up? What's your early background? What were the steps that took you to where you were at the 930 Club?
I've been going to the 930 Club since it opened in May of 1980. And as a patron and lover of punk rock music and the environment. And so I started working in bars in the mid 80s. And eventually went to a bar called DC Space, which was 2 blocks from the old 930 Club at 930 F Street Northwest. And so I worked at DC Space and knew everybody at the club, and just kind of like your socializing family, were
Mhm.
these people. So when they moved to the new space at 815V in '96, uh, I was at that time working at the Washington City paper, the Free Weekly, and was placing an ad and, and saw that they needed a bar manager at the 930 Club.
Mhm.
And so I applied for it and I got it. And I've been here since April of '97.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So really, it starts with love of music.
Uh-huh.
I really wouldn't be here.
So what is it that when you go to work makes you say, "This is what I love"?
That's transitioned over the years. And really now it's about the people that um, I work with. Uh, we have a common goal, and that's to make the day happen to the best of our ability and make everybody happy and safe and have a great time, whether it's the bands or the customers. And so that's the reward, much more than the shows
Mhm.
these days for me. Not that I can't enjoy a good show, but
Mhm.
it really is about the people, and I care, and you know don't want to get overly involved in their lives and their drama, but that they're doing okay and being successful, and you know that those that are only here with us for a year or two while they're in college, that's what it should be for them. And if you have to leave us, then that's what that should be for you.
This is interesting because a lot of people may not realize this, but when you work in the industry like you do, and like I did, your social life is fairly restricted to the norms of society because when most everybody is out having a good time, you're working. And so the people you work with become almost like a little family because they're the only ones that when you're not working, you could go out with, but everybody else is working during the day. And so what you're saying is that sometimes what's lost, we're talking now about the loss of the jobs of the people who work in restaurants or work in bars and clubs, and while there's loss of economic impact, for the venue itself, but also for the people that work there, it's the loss of that little family unit that you've created over the years when you have a club like the 930 Club, where it's just like a lot of people have been there for a long time, and it's like a family. So I think a lot of people haven't recognized that restaurants, because you often employ so many people, uh, there's almost like a family to that. Is that something that you kind of miss in this whole experience?
Yeah, I definitely check in on people, see how they're doing. Because of my managerial role, I you don't want to get too involved, but at the same time, they're very dear to me. And
Hmm.
this has been a devastating time for our industry. And because we're a live music venue, we're not a restaurant. We're not
Mhm.
opening up our doors and serving hot dogs or anything. And
Mhm.
you know, we've thought about what we could do, and it's really, you know, other we're doing what we can for our employees in terms of a food pantry, and with you know, a fund to help employees out if they need it, which is financed by people purchasing our merch.
Mhm.
And people have been super supportive.
Mhm.
So it's the whole community, because there are our customers who are very loyal. Not, and, you know, some people just come once every 5 years for a show, but there are those that, you know, could be in our venue 3 nights a week.
Well, that gets to our first question here. What are the challenges that you see within your peer group of live music venues and that whole live music venue industry? You know, what are the biggest challenges, and what is it that gives you hope?
The biggest challenge, the number one challenge right now, is survival. I won't get into all of the P issues and whatnot, but our industry didn't get targeted until the bill before Christmas. And then it's whether or not you can access it, and you know, how they treat your operation. But it was a pretty fierce lobbying effort to get those people on the hill to understand that there's like 12 million of us out here, and most of us aren't working. So survival is key, and uh, we're very fortunate to be in the position we are, where we're still hanging in there with a few employees and able to, you know, do things like the food pantry, which is kind of labor intensive. Who knew? You
Mhm.
know, it really is. But it's also very rewarding, and you're really helping people. It's not, you know, just a nice thing to do. It's
Mhm.
really important. So survival is the main thing right now. And then, you know, coming back, um god, I just keep thinking about, oh my god, we're gonna have to have a food handlers class, you know, and we're gonna have to have a, a TAMS class, we're gonna have to have a fire drill, we're gonna have to have, and let alone an entire insane hiring process, because I
Yeah.
really do believe that we've lost a lot of employees through osmosis, you know, through they had to move home, they moved in with a boyfriend, they moved across country, they
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
another job.
Yeah.
And
So prior to the pandemic, I know you really had. I've been to your venue a number of times, and you have a
Mhm.
great security system, great staff, and things are managed so smoothly and so well. But you know, you had that floor filled with 1,000 people or 500 people, all closely packed together. I mean, what do you see from a security perspective being the evolution of getting back to a profitable venue where you have enough bodies in the room, yet at the same time being sensitive to, you know, how people are going to react to being in close proximity? How do you think venues are going to make it? Do you think you're going to have multiple shows just to spread people out? And how does that impact the talent, the performers? And, you know, are they going to be wanting to do more than one show with basically the same door count?
I'm going to work a little backwards here, because really the thing that I felt was most critical about us coming back is when the bands are willing to go back on tour. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, it's relevant to what's happened. Each state, city have different guidelines, so we're beholden to all of that. But when is a band going to be ready to go back on tour? So you think about it. They're in a different city every night. They're in a closed and tight quarters on a bus. Um, they are meeting hundreds of people possibly if they do meet and
Hmm.
greets and stuff. But even so, you're still dealing with staff in a different venue and every night.
A lot of the people are the younger people, so they may not get the vaccine until the summer or even the fall.
That's true too. So I think that's a big part of where it starts. You might get more uh, local, and I don't mean immediately local, but regional
Hmm.
artists playing regions, kind of like the way the hockey's going on right now.
Hmm.
Playing regional. Um, so that's a big question right there, is about the bands.
The
Because
bands, yeah.
obviously if they're not on tour, you're not booking anything.
Do you think the live streaming option that a lot of performers have grown accustomed to, and in some cases have been able to monetize in a way, will take away from their desire to get back on the road again?
From what I understand, and this is not my forte, but
Hmm.
um, live streaming professionally is not cheap.
Hmm.
And so when you add that into a cost, but I can see it if, say, the Foo Fighters are doing a show and there's limited um, capacity, half capacity or even 75%, when you're trying to maximize, bands make their money on tour. That's how they
Hmm.
make their money now. So for the most part. So I could see that they would make it a part of each show, live stream it, or
Hmm.
maybe one show a month, or maybe the beginning of the tour, or that's definitely how they'll probably highlight new releases,
Hmm.
uh, teasers, even you could
Hmm.
call them, for tours they're going to go on. I think there'll be a lot of creativity around that.
Yeah,
I,
so it'll
I
be
don't
more of a hybrid type of a process.
possibly.
Yeah, yeah.
Who, just my brain speaking. I don't have any special insight into this. Um, we have done two live stream events at the Lincoln Theater,
Hmm.
Sweet Honey and the Rock, for Juneteenth, and also for, oh geez, I think Martin Luther King's birthday.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I love that band. That's a great band.
yeah, they've been around since the '70s, maybe even longer. But it, it's it was hard because of minimal staff, and having to bring a couple of people back, but people are doing things, you
Hmm.
know. So it's complicated.
So what I hear you saying is that pre-pandemic things were kind of were moving along, but since then, you've had this dramatic shift and change, and the comeback is not only going to just be whether the city government says, okay, well, you can have 75% occupancy or 50 occupancy with live entertainment. The other considerations is just being able to regenerate a staff, particularly a staff that would be willing to work in crowded conditions. And also, there'll be other challenges, besides the normal ones: responsible alcohol service, dealing with sexual harassment. Now you're going to be dealing with space infringements, people who are still sensitive to that social distancing. And, you might have some security challenges with that. But more importantly, it's going to be the talent and getting the performers willing to travel from city to city, especially if one city has more restrictions than the other. It may not be financially viable for them to do a tour. So, supposing all of these pieces work themselves out, you have good government policy, you've got, financial incentives for businesses to open, you've got, staff online, touring is beginning again. So 18 months from now, if I'm in the cellar at the 930 Club and we're reminiscing about how things have changed, what do you think will have been the most important thing, not only for live music, but for the whole, say, DC social nightlife economy?
I think a better relationship, honestly, with the government, the local government, will be the best change for restaurants, bars. The streeteries are going to remain. I'm sure there'll be lots of more regulation around them, but you can't just throw up something ugly, whatever. But um, the expansion of off-premise alcohol service.
Mhm.
DC is really making leaps and bounds in terms of trying to be more user friendly to their customer, which is us.
Mhm.
And so I think, just off the bat, that in terms of what's going to be really different about our industry in our city is that I look forward to a brand new um, next phase that we're
Mhm.
moving into, moving progressively.
And if you could have the one performer, regardless of cost, that would break down the barrier between the pandemic and a new 930 Club, what act would you want to see there?
What I want to see, personal, this is personal,
Yeah, personal.
Patti Smith.
Patti Smith. Okay.
Wasn't she out on election day? Did you see that clip of her out on election day on a corner in New York singing "We the People" to people in line for voting?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, Patti Smith.
That's who you want. Okay.
That's
Okay.
who I want.
All right. We'll see if that happens.
I'm a punk rocker. What are you gonna do? Don't look
Well,
like it, but
yeah. Well, Gene, it's funny. We're starting this before we do the summit. We're going to do a trend spotting forum. So we're gonna like just have people come up with themes for trends, things that they've seen, and there'll be small groups that will stage with people who are signed up for the summit. But that's how we first met you. If you remember, in
I do.
Chicago, we did a trend spotting forum. We had you come in. We had Rick Wyatt, remember, from Seattle
I
and some
do.
other places. Yeah, so we go back a long
Barry
ways.
from 40 Watt.
Yeah, yep, yep. We had better, yeah. So it was quite a good mix of people. Yeah. So we have a long history, Gene, and it's been great chatting with you.
Well, I welcome our relationship, Jim. You helped me learn a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, this will conclude our discussion, and look
Okay.
forward to working with you in the future.
All right, Jim.
Okay, bye bye.